Welcome back to the Psych House. This channel is about helping men navigate relationships and improve themselves using real-world psychology, not theory, slogans, or empty advice, but strategies that work when life shows up and doesn't care about your plans. I want to start with something that landed in my inbox not long ago, an email from a woman. The reason I'm sharing it isn't to shame her. It illustrates better than any statistics why so many women over 40 end up single, frustrated, and quietly confused at a world they thought they understood. She wrote it like she was doing math out loud. She said, "If I want kids by 28, then I probably need to be married by 26, but I'd want to be married for at least 2 years before having kids. And before marriage, I'd need at least a year engaged to plan the wedding. And before that, I'd want to date seriously for 2 years. That feels responsible." At first, it sounds reasonable, almost admirable, planning ahead, being intentional. Then she kept going. When you add all that up, she realized she would have needed to meet her future husband by 23. Pause. She wrote, "Wait, that can't be right, brother. This is the moment where the fantasy cracks. This is where spreadsheets meet biology, where timelines collide with real time." She wasn't panicking yet. She was calm, logical, still trying to make the numbers behave. Then came the line that changed the tone of the email. "But I'm very single, like completely single. So how is this supposed to work? Because I would have had to meet him tomorrow for this plan to be real." That's when quiet anxiety crept in, not dramatic, not hysteria, but the kind that shows up when you realize time is passing whether you notice it or not. Notice something important. She didn't write this at 21. She didn't write this at 25. She wrote this at 35. That 10-year difference is everything. Up until that point, she believed, like many are taught, that time was flexible, that life would figure itself out, and that delaying decisions had no cost. Then the math hit, and math doesn't care how empowered you feel. She even acknowledged the pressure herself, saying, "I feel like I'm running out of time and I don't like how that sounds." Then she told a male friend about her plan, and his reaction wasn't sympathy or encouragement, it was skepticism. He said, "You don't need to rush this," she replied, "but if I don't, the timeline doesn't work." This is the first real collision between male and female reality. Men hear urgency and think danger. Women feel urgency and think necessity. To a man, pressure looks like a trap. To a woman, pressure feels like survival. That's not ideology, that's pattern recognition. Her friend added, "Any woman who wants you to rush commitment before you've really seen who she is, that's bad news." That line bothered her, not because it was cruel, but because it contradicted everything she'd been taught. She was told urgency was romantic, that speed meant seriousness, and delay meant disinterest. But from a male perspective, speed often signals hidden chaos. She didn't argue, she wrote, "That scared me." If he's right, then what she felt wasn't love, it was panic. The quiet truth most people don't say is that many relationships aren't driven by connection. They're driven by deadlines. When a relationship is built on a deadline instead of desire, someone always loses, often both. The real question is, if time is limited, opportunities aren't infinite, and rushing pushes away the very people you want, then what happens to women who delay until the math no longer works? After laying out her timeline, she wrote, "I know this sounds dramatic, but it feels like women only get a few real chances to do this right." She wasn't talking about dating excitement or butterflies. She was talking about full-cycle attempts where things line up long enough to build a family and a legacy. Think about what a serious attempt involves. It's not a few months of excitement, it's years. You date, you figure each other out, handle conflict, then engagement, planning, shared responsibilities, stress, marriage, and then children. That's not a weekend decision. That's a multi-year investment, she wrote. One relationship can easily consume 5 to 7 years of your life. And that's if it works. If it doesn't, you don't just lose the relationship, you lose time. And time for women is not neutral. She acknowledged the social scripts she grew up with. "I was told it was fine to wait, explore, travel, focus on myself, that I had time." Notice the language, explore, focus on myself. None of those words mention outcomes. They're about experiences, feelings, identity. Biology doesn't care about identity narratives. Each serious relationship that doesn't work isn't just a lesson, it's a closed door. After a few of those, there aren't many doors left. The email moved from theory to reality. She gave examples of women who seemed successful, with long-term relationships that never turned into families. I thought love would eventually fit into my life, but I didn't realize my choices were actively making love harder, she wrote. That's the trap. Most people don't intentionally avoid alignment, they postpone it. They assume desire alone is enough. They assume wanting something guarantees time will wait. Men and life don't work like that. She noticed most men I dated wanted family, but only after things felt stable. They weren't in a rush. The older I got, the more cautious they became. That's not cruelty, it's pattern recognition. Men understand risk. They know sunk costs. They know rushing commitment with the wrong person can destroy decades of work. When urgency replaces peace, men don't see seriousness, they see chaos. As she approached her mid-30s, the pressure to make something stick grew. The more pressure she felt, the more people pulled away. It's a vicious feedback loop. Pressure leads to rushed decisions to instability, instability to failure, failure eats time, less time creates more pressure. She wrote, I always thought I could course correct, that if one attempt failed, the next would be better. But no one told me the margin for error gets thinner every year. This is the cost of delay, not punishment, just arithmetic. That's why many women over 40 stay single. It's not lack of desire, it's misunderstanding sequence. They believed they could stack life in any order: career first, freedom first, fun first, commitment later. Life doesn't stack like blocks, it stacks like dominoes. Knock one out of sequence and the rest wobble. Her email ended with a question. At what point does waiting for the right thing turn into avoiding the right thing? The email became quieter, and truth often shows in quietness. She wrote, the hardest part isn't realizing I waited. It's realizing why I waited. Regret doesn't come from bad decisions. It comes from decisions made under a lie. For most of her 20s, she believed she was doing the right thing. She was disciplined, ambitious, socially praised. She built a life impressive on paper: education, career, travel, experiences, stories, while thinking she was responsible. Everyone told me I was smart for not settling, strong for prioritizing myself, that marriage would be there when I was ready. Notice how seductive that message is. It doesn't say abandon partnership, it just delays it indefinitely, comfortably, with applause. No one says don't commit, they say later. Later feels harmless until later arrives. The wake-up moment came slowly. Friends starting families, smaller dating pools, unavoidable questions about the future. She realized at some point I wasn't choosing anymore. I was reacting. Hope became my strategy, not a plan, not alignment, just hope. Hope is passive. Reality punishes passivity. She wrote, the truth hurts more when you realize you participated in the lie. Lost years aren't theoretical, they're gone. You can't hustle around life's timing. She admitted, I spent my 20s doing things that felt meaningful in the moment but didn't move me closer to the life I said I wanted. This isn't morality, it's alignment. Experiences, travel, novelty, they're not evil, but they don't build a family or long-term legacy. Those years feel alive, validated, socially rewarded, but the bill comes later. She observed younger women waking up earlier, feeling relief while she felt grief. She wrote, the best time to wake up was 10 years ago. The second best time was 30. The third best time is now. That line isn't motivational, it's surgical. It forces a choice: confront reality or protect ego with denial. She admitted waking up is hard because once you see truth, you must accept its cost. She wrote, people keep telling me to trust the process, but trust without action feels like self-deception. Hope doesn't reverse time. Faith doesn't replace choices. Intentions don't replace decisions. This is why so many over 40 stay single. It's not lack of desire. It's waiting for clarity instead of choosing alignment. Waiting for certainty instead of building stability. Waiting for feelings instead of respecting sequence. By the time truth arrives, the window has narrowed. She concluded, I'm not angry at people. I'm angry that no one told me delay had consequences. Then came the lesson. Fun isn't a life strategy. Fun is like eating cotton candy when you're starving. It tastes amazing for a minute, but it doesn't nourish you. Keep doing it and you get weaker, not stronger. Casual distractions, endless options, attention without accountability, people call it freedom. Freedom without direction turns into drift. She admitted she mistook stimulation for progress, activity for movement, stories for substance, attention for connection. Culture reinforced this. I was taught that wanting family made me weak, that needing a partner meant I lacked ambition, that independence meant detachment. This messaging isolates because it suppresses desires that push toward alignment. She realized, I spent years trying to be the cool, flexible, always available person, and all it did was teach people my needs were negotiable. Optional people get delayed, replaced, forgot. She knew what she wanted: stability, partnership, family, but was afraid to state it, afraid to scare people away. Years passed. The lesson is clear. If you don't state standards, life assigns your role. If you don't enforce boundaries, people test how little you require. Delay alignment long enough and you don't get rejected, you get ignored. She wrote, I wish I'd been willing to lose people earlier instead of losing time. People walking away isn't failure. Sometimes it's filtration. Commitment doesn't scare the right partner, it filters the wrong ones. This is why so many over 40 stay single, not lack of attractiveness or effort, but because when hard lines are drawn, the landscape has shifted. Rebuilding costs more than building early. She didn't end with bitterness, she ended with responsibility. I can't get my time back, but I can stop lying to myself about what I want. That's the line between resentment and maturity. This isn't about blame, it's about truth. A life without partnership, family, or legacy is quieter than people expect. Fun doesn't fill silence forever. If this conversation hits something real in you, choose boundaries or clarity. For more breakdowns like this, raw, grounded, focused on long-term strength, join a community that values truth over comfort, discipline over delusion, and building something that lasts. Clarity now is always cheaper than regret.